All rise. Oyez, oyez, oyez. Silence is commanded by this honorable commission. All those having business draw near.
Thank you, and you may be seated. In accordance with House Bill 581, all right, this is a public hearing. We have a presentation to come from the Board of Assessors. All right, so let us call those forward, Mr. Manager, so we can carry on.
Yes, sir, Mr. Chairman. I'm asking Mr. Talbot, and he can come and introduce his chief appraiser, and we can, I've asked them to prepare a presentation for the board. As we found out, the legislature, they're still tweaking House Bill 581. So we're required to do 3 public hearings. What we've decided to do today, since we already had this hearing already published, we're going to go ahead and receive the information, and then we'll determine, we're going to have another public hearing starting tomorrow's meeting, and then we'll determine after that where we go based on what what's voted on next week in the up in Atlanta. So, Corey, Terry.
We want to thank you for inviting us today, and Corey is our chief appraiser, and he's very knowledgeable about the current bill. And it may change from time to time, but based on what we know, Corey is going to, we had our meeting today, and he went over with us what he knows as it is today. So Corey, will you come in and explain what you know?
Yes, sir.
All right.
Well, good evening, everybody. Commissioners, pleasure to be here with everybody tonight. I have prepared a presentation that I hope is going to be easy enough for us all to walk through here together. All right, so a little background about me just real quick. I've been an employee with the Board of Assessors now for 12 years. I first came on board as a technology support. I was given control of our Canvas system, and for the past 12 years, I've been responsible for the preparation and submission of the tax digest for the state. And for the past 2 years, I've been proud to serve as our interim chief appraiser. So I do know a little bit about Stevens Day, and I do know a little bit about this 581. You've heard it's going to change a little bit. I don't have much information on that. It's a moving target, but what we do know, I'm going to just talk with you all about here tonight. And feel free to interrupt me with questions, but we'll have some time at the end, of course, for anything you guys would like to ask me. So just a couple of important vocabulary terms. We have lots of things we talk about here in the assessing world. There's lots of things with the bill that I want to make sure everybody understands what this is. So first and foremost, fair market value. That's a very simple one. It's just what is the value of the property at a given tax year. Whether it's our value, an appeal decision value, whatever it is, whatever that property value is, that is what we refer to as the fair market value. And when we start getting into the exemption world and savings and the like, we don't talk about the fair market values, we talk about the assessed value. So in Georgia, properties are assessed at 40% of their value. So if you have a $100,000 fair market value, your assessed value or your taxable value is $40,000. Pretty straightforward. So homestead savings, in this particular case, is a reduction of the assessed value from those homestead savings. So we're not going to talk about taxes tonight. We try to stay pretty far away from that. But we can still get to the nitty-gritty by talking about what this means in the assessed value savings. You're going to hear assessed value a lot. You're going to hear these savings a lot. You're also going to hear base year value. So this is our exemption comparison value. That's what we establish at the time of an applicant receiving that Stevens Day or a floating homestead, as it were, and we're going to use those values to compare to calculate what those savings are. You're also going to hear Canvas system. That's a computer-assisted mass appraisal system. That's our software system, and that's where a lot of our magic happens to develop that digest. So we're going to start off with what we know already, what's been around for a long time. We're just going to start at the beginning. This is the best place, I think, to establish a base understanding. So Stevens Day is what is referred to as a base year value homestead exemption. So what that means is applicants that come in, that qualify, that receive Stevens Day, get established a base year value. That base year value is determined to be the fair market value in the previous year. So we have some examples down there. So if you were to come in today and apply for Homestead and receive Stevens Day, your fair market value, your base value for Stevens Day would be your 2024 fair market value. If you were to have been awarded this exemption back in 2015, that fair market value base year value would be your 2014 value. So we're looking at the previous year value. Yes, sir.
What year did we start Stevens
Put your mic
Day?
on.
What year was the first year that Chatham County taxpayers were able to apply and take advantage of the Stevens Day Act?
I believe the initial year is 2001, with that first base year value being established as the year 2000.
Thank you.
And along those same lines, we have many applicants that have had Stevens Day for its entire duration, and that base year value remains set at the 2000 fair market value. Excellent question, and thank you for asking. So there's different places in time somebody could come and get a homestead application, or a homestead exemption. And it means different things for that property as it moves throughout its valuation cycle throughout the years. So this is essentially what Stevens Day is. It's a base year value homestead exemption. It has a base. We compare it to fair market value. We establish those savings that way. 581 is a bit, yes, ma'am.
So you could be in a neighborhood and you could have different fair market value or base values depending on when you bought your house, correct?
It would depend on a number of things, but certainly when you purchased your house would have an effect on that as well. So you would not necessarily have the same fair market value or base year value as your neighbor, even if you applied and received in the same year. Not every property has the same fair market values. So House Bill 581 is another base year value type exemption. One thing that is very different about this is that whereas Stevens Day is only for properties that are 5 acres in size or less, this new homestead has no such provisions. So if a property qualifies for homestead, an owner qualifies for homestead on a property with more than 5 acres, they could be awarded this new exemption. Now, we did some numbers. There's not even but 80 properties in the county that would currently be in this situation that currently have homestead, but it's still worth noting.
Mr. Gillimore,
Yes,
did you say 80 or 8?
80.
And could you, for the record, state how many properties are on the tax digest for the county?
We are nearing 125,000 total properties.
So 80 out of 100. Okay.
I want to be clear that that 80 represents the properties that currently have homestead,
Right.
that do not have Stevens Day. That would not include any properties that could qualify. These are the ones that have qualified for homestead but do not have Stevens Day due to that size restriction. Yes, ma'am.
Put your mic on.
Can you have both?
I'm going to give you a short answer and a long answer later. The short answer is yes. The long answer is a bit more to talk about, though. But the short answer is yes. So the way this new exemption would come around, were you not to opt out, is people who already have homestead would automatically receive this new exemption. There's no new application. There's no new intake process. There are no additional qualifiers for this. It follows the same qualification standards as homestead. So that part of the law has not changed. One key difference in this is going to be when that base year value gets established. Imagine for a moment that you are one of those folks that has a Stevens Day with a base year value from 2000. Now maybe you get the second one. The base year value, since it's brand new, would be established for 2024. So right away you have a difference of 24 years in base year values. Does that make sense for everybody? Okay. The other caveat to this, and this does not apply to county, but it does apply to our friends with the school board, City of Savannah, is that there's going to be an annual adjustment yet to be determined by the Revenue Commissioner, leaning towards a consumer price index inflationary adjustment. It's a lot of words. We're going to look at what that looks like, though.
Could you explain for the public, oh, sorry.
No, you go.
Could you explain for the public watching, are we on television? All right, how the county, how we do our portion without that built-in CPI with the Stevens Day?
We're going to go to my example 1 here and just look at what that looks like.
All right, good, thank you.
Sometimes I anticipate good questions. So this is a very basic example, and I want to go ahead and just point out these are completely made-up values. If you were to look closely, you can see we have quite the reassessment year to year, but I like nice, clean numbers. I like good, clean examples when we try to spec out what software could look like. The easiest examples are always the easiest ones to understand for everybody involved. So let's imagine for a moment that we have an applicant who was awarded Stevens Day for 2015. So we have a $200,000 fair market value for 2015, which is going to be $80,000 assessed, 40% of that number there. They're going to be awarded a 2014 fair market value for Stevens Day, which that prior year was $100,000. So quite a big reval on that, but again, that's just an example. That's not an indication of how we do things. But that assessed value for that fair market value, Stevens Day, will be $40,000. Again, our assessed values is how we calculate these savings. So how that works is you take the current year assessed value, in this case $80,000, you take the assessed values of that base, $40,000, and we get our savings, $40,000. The difference between the two equals the savings. Does that answer your question, sir? I'm sorry. We can go further.
Just wanting the simple version for the people at home, that the city of Savannah builds in has an annual increase as well as.
That's right.
The Board of Education has a built-in increase with their current Stevens Day, and this body previously chose not to have that built-in increase on the values.
That's correct, sir. So for county, special service district, and our transit, and most of our municipalities, the base year value that becomes established, whenever it gets established, is not adjusted due to any sort of inflationary factors. The exception to that would be the school board, city of Savannah, and our new dialogue here, which is this new exemption. Those would, Savannah and school do currently receive inflationary adjustments. This new one also would.
Thank you.
So this is a very basic example of what an initial Stevens Day savings could look like. So we had the same applicant. It's been 10 years. 2024 fair market value now is $400,000, which means the assessed value is $160,000. Our base year value has not changed as per county ordinance. $40,000 assessed value. We take that current assessed value, we subtract that Stevens Day base, and we get $120,000 in exemption savings. So what we illustrate here is through the years, as values go up, so also do the savings. That's an important component of how we determine which one offers the most savings. Straightforward enough. Okay. So just to kind of recap, Stevens Day savings we calculate at the current assessed value minus the 40% value of that Stevens Day base, whatever that is, whenever it was. Savings increase or decrease throughout the life of the exemption based on how the property value can change. It may go up, it may go down. If values go up, savings go up. Values go down, savings go down. I mentioned before there could be two different base year values. It's important to note that in our Canvas system, these two base year values are independently maintained of each other. They don't talk to each other, they don't consider each other. They live in completely different places and are maintained independently. The new 581 exemption applies that same logic, but again, we have an inflationary adjustment that comes along with that. So we have some differences already that could affect those savings. So this inflationary adjustment, we're going to assume a pretty aggressive one at about 5%. Good, clean numbers. So we have our same applicant, 2015, fair market value, $200,000, $80,000 assessed. Then we have that 2014. This might be a better example as a school Stevens Day, since the new one doesn't go back that far. Just illustration purposes. 2014, $100,000 prior fair market value times an inflationary rate. So imagining that we had that $40,000 base year value times a 5% inflationary rate, now our base year value is not $40,000 or $100,000. It is in fact $105,000 fair market value or $42,000 assessed. So we're seeing the effects of what that inflationary adjustment does. Minimal but impactful. Savings then would be calculated as the $80,000 from that assessed value minus this inflationary adjusted $42,000 base year value. And we have a different savings, $38,000, not $40,000 in that example. This is what Stevens Day looks like over some years. House Bill 581 will work the same way. As an inflationary component, it would compound over the years. So when that inflationary adjustment is made, it's made to the prior adjusted base year value and not the original. So we can see throughout time, 2015 is our initial. We have an adjustment to $105,000 out of the gate already. Over 10 years, that adjusted base becomes $171,000 and some change. So you can see over time, and certainly these adjustments would not be 5% every time. They could be, I've seen them go as high as 7, 8%, as low as 1 to 2%. It really depends on what we see in the inflationary markets. But this is what it could look like over time. Yes, sir.
So just to be clear, this is indicating just the increase, which would typically be like the 581 increase that you're talking about?
For this purpose, yes, sir.
Yeah.
That would be the 581 inflationary increase, as I imagine it for examples.
Right,
I do
right.
not know what that increase would be.
Who
And it is very
determines-
rarely the same.
Who determines that increase?
The revenue commissioner will send us a memo each year indicating what that inflationary index should be. It's been stated that it should be essentially CPI, which would be the same inflationary adjustment as Stevens Day, but that has not been determined yet.
Gotcha.
So a lot of information to take in. The important thing is that very far right column where we see the base year value adjusted each year based on that inflationary increase. So as we move the current times, our base is not $105,000 as it was in the beginning. It is now $171,000 adjusted for inflation over a 10-year period. That certainly changes what the savings can look like. So our same applicant now. Again, Homestead awarded in 2015. We now have a 2024 fair market value, $400,000, $160,000 assessed. And now we have an adjusted value, which is going to be that $171,000. Its assessed value is $68,400. If you look at those savings down there at the bottom, our savings is now $91,600. If you look at that comparison, in the normal counties, Stevens Day, without inflationary adjustment, that savings is $120,000 off the assessed value. In a CPI adjusted situation, inflationary adjusted situation, those savings are less. They're $91,600. Clearly, in this example, Stevens Day offers the greater savings. So the magic happens behind the scenes at our office where our Canvas system would look at that, make that determination, and award Stevens Day for that taxpayer. Clear enough? All right. Oh, question.
That's if it's not adopted.
That would be correct. That would be correct. If it's not adopted, the conversation really doesn't matter
Okay.
for this presentation. But that is the current implementation for the school in Savannah, so there is still calculation that we do on that. There's just not a comparison between two. School Savannah only have Stevens Day. But we can illustrate that because we have that kind of thing in place already, just to make it easier for everybody to digest. Okay. So some information from ACCG. I'm sure everybody knows who they are. There's been some confusion, I think, that's floated around there, some calls that we've gotten. And I'm just going to read this for everybody out loud. This is just from the ACCG House Bill 581 FAQs. If House Bill 581 does not eliminate any existing homestead exemptions for any jurisdiction, regardless of the type of homestead exemption, but it may override existing floating, base year, and frozen exemptions if that exemption provides a greater benefit to the taxpayer. That last little bit right there in that sentence is the eye-opening piece that we've been having to communicate with our public as well. And that's good information for this conversation as well. So 2 takeaways from that is going to be, this does not replace Stevens Day. It works in conjunction with Stevens Day. Only one at a time gets awarded. It also does not modify Stevens Day. We maintain those base year values separately. Makes sense? Okay. Other considerations to make is that our Canvas system is going to look at what's going to be better. Probably Stevens Day typically will offer the better savings because there's no inflationary adjustment. But our canvas system will always look at each individual tax authority, whether it's you all, municipalities, or school board, and it will make that comparison automatically and apply whichever one saves the most. Important to note that the taxpayer does not have to make a decision on this process. It's really automated by our systems. So to answer your question, Commissioner, yes, you could have both, but you will never be enjoying the benefits of both at the same time. Does that make sense? Okay.
Chair.
Yeah, you,
This is assuming that you move forward by opting in.
opting in.
If you opt out, Stevens Day is it.
Question.
Yes, sir.
So you can theoretically flip-flop, a property owner could have Stevens Day for 5 years, and then 1 year, maybe the 581 came up with a lower total cost, and it would go, you would pay the 581 tax. And then the next year, theoretically, Stevens Day, you still have your original, so and it just calculates and says, well, your overall tax bill will be lower, so we're gonna go back to Stevens Day, and it can
That's
go
right.
back and forth
Yes,
theoretically.
sir. 100%.
And the thing about this
Thank you.
is that, you calculate it, right?
Yes, sir. Yes, sir.
The homeowner themselves don't have to calculate.
That is correct.
You calculate which one gives them the best savings.
Yes, sir.
All right.
Yes, sir.
Let me ask you
Hold on, let me go ahead, I'm coming. Go ahead.
one question, and we can all go home.
Yes, sir.
That's great what you just said. If we were to go with both, basically, what is have y'all come up with a, impact on the county as far as anything? Would we be facing an immediate deficit that we don't deal with that. All right. Well, that's something, I mean,
I
that,
know,
you
but
know,
that's-
I mean,
yeah.
we would definitely need to, Michael, we would need to know. I mean, this sounds like a win-win because it sounds as if the current structure is the way for the majority, but to please others that, because we have such doubters in government and elected officials nowadays, if he came up here and laid out everything that just showed that our current way is the best way, people doubt. And in politics, perception sometimes is greater than reality. So if we can float both, but I want to make sure before we just go floating both that we don't financially bankrupt the county and then I'll have to come in here and raise taxes through the roof. I mean, that's what,
Well, because Stevens Day is more restricted, we don't think that's going to be a major impact to the county.
okay, then we,
But the legislature, they're still tweaking this, so I think the jury's still out on some of it.
it basically depends on what their final thoughts are, whatever they present
Yes, sir.
in the very end. But right now, it looks as if both's the way to go. It covers
Let
the
it fly.
citizens.
Yeah. Mind you, this is strictly information. We've got, we're gonna wait till after the final vote's taken before we ask
Yeah, I mean, I
this
know we're not
commission to do
voting
anything.
tonight, but I'm just saying this was great presentation
All right, let's
already.
go
I know
to-
you're
let's
not
go
done,
to-
but
Let's go to Commissioner Norton.
So in a nutshell, with what you've already presented, the people with 5 acres or less that are enjoying their homestead, their Stevens Day, and no change, they would be covered. And now, because House Bill 581 includes properties from 5 to whatever, we've now included those 80 people. Should we opt out? Now,
Opt in.
Opt in.
Yeah.
If we opt in, all property owners in Chatham County would be able to save money by House Bill 581 or Stevens Day.
That is the way the bills, that is
Correct,
correct. You must
correct.
qualify
Yes,
for
yes, yes.
homestead. Yes.
Of course, being a resident of the household.
Yeah.
That is the way the bill is currently.
Yeah.
There is some conversation out there that there may come an acreage limitation in the future.
All right, I'm coming. Let me go to Commissioner Milton, and while I'm going to Commissioner Milton, whoever's in the control room, I'm gonna need the portable mic out here, all right? So bring that out. Go ahead, Commissioner Milton.
My question is, we're opting out for unincorporated Chatham County, is that right?
This is the,
I mean,
for
that's
the,
the-
for the
that's-
M and O budget,
This is for the whole county.
Hope County, yeah.
Yeah, the general fund and the SSD. So we have two tax rates.
But he was mentioning Savannah had some other
They
stuff.
have their own property
Oh, yeah.
tax digestion rates.
Yeah.
So,
So
Yeah.
if we are, I mean, as a county, what if there's an individual that's in the county that wanna have just, that wanna be in?
See, for the county, if we do it as M&O, it's everybody. Everybody pays M&O, all right? What he's talking about now is that the city, each one of the municipalities except Vernonburg have their own taxing system. They can opt in and opt out, based upon what they want to do on their taxes. But that won't have anything to do with the county taxes. The county taxes, we will decide, what we're gonna do, all right? And then that will apply to everybody, and it applies in the M&O, okay? It applies to everyone, because everyone pays taxes in M&O. Every county property owner. But now, again, make sure that we emphasize, Mr. Tower, because you said it, but you said it low, and I want to make sure people get it. You're talking about their primary residence.
The primary residence, that's correct, and that we're in the beginning stage of what the legislature may do, because this may change.
Yep.
Yeah, okay. Come on, Commissioner Farrell, I'm coming.
Okay. So if the commission does nothing, takes no action, then we will keep our Stevens Day. 581 will automatically take effect without any board action. And the taxpayers will benefit from each year from whichever one calculates their total tax package to be the least dollars.
That's correct. The most savings is how we like to say it.
The most savings for their tax. Okay, so I think we're done here.
All right, Commissioner Hart.
Just one question.
Yes, ma'am.
With the implementation of the HB 581, it doesn't preclude anyone from the Stevens Day because that goes into effect, correct?
That is correct.
Okay.
Important to note is that House Bill 581 has no impact on Stevens Day,
Thank
but it
you.
may result in greater savings than Stevens Day in some situations.
In some situations.
In some situations.
Right, okay.
Few, but so.
All right, since this is a public hearing, let's identify yourself.
Tony Riley.
I'm speaking to Mike.
Tony Riley. I understand that Mr. Kegler says that they're still tweaking it, but I understand that some counties are already opting in and out throughout Georgia. Why would they do that if this is not settled? And then the other part of the question, my concern is, with house values fluctuating, seemingly, mine just went down, my taxes went up. So I didn't have enough in escrow, so now I got to pay extra money in escrow, and then my mortgage went up. So how would this affect situations like that?
So the first question, I believe, is not really one that I'm qualified to answer. Why would somebody opt out? I'm here to offer what I know about the situation and try to empower those who can make those decisions. Now, I will say, for your individual property, sir, probably the best thing to do would be to give me an opportunity to review specifically your property, and that would give me a better avenue to be able to explain. There could be a multitude of factors that would happen. But ultimately, how this exemption applies to any property is really contingent on, well, for the case of Stevens Day, it really depends on when you get that base year value. Were it 10 years ago, we're in a much different market now than we were. We know values have gone up across the board. Your maximum would be set at that base year value for county tax purposes. 581 is difficult to predict at this point.
But I really don't think it just applies because I kind of buy and sell property, and I look at the different values of property over the years for different properties, and I've seen where 1 year a property is paying $13,000 a year in taxes, and then the next year the valuation of their property is down, but the taxes are up. So that's what I'm trying.
I think I can probably
But
answer
again,
that.
what he's saying though, that has to go to the Board of Assessors, and they have to do individual, all right? Rather than, you can't apply that to collectively to everybody.
And-
Because it doesn't work that way.
And if I may, you're talking investment properties
Correct.
versus homestead
Homestead
exempted
exemption.
properties.
Right.
For you to get this tax break, it has to be your actual home. And you have to apply for the homestead exemption, which at that point, it automatically files you and enrolls you with the Stevens Day exemption. And if we don't opt out or whatever of this thing the state's proposing, it'll automatically enroll your home property where you actually live, where you'll get the greater benefit as far as the county portion, the part we control. And as far as why would other counties be opting in or out at this point, phew, you got me. If the state of Georgia's still messing
Yeah.
around with numbers, that's not something we would choose to do.
Let
but we
me
can
give
answer
you,
for
let me
them.
give you the answer that we have. Last Wednesday, when we were at the Capitol, all counties, all 159 counties were asked to stop what you're doing and don't do anything. Don't opt in, don't opt out, because last Wednesday they did some edits and some rewording, and out of that came House Bill 92. Is that's the number, right? House Bill 92 came, and House Bill 92 has not been applied yet, all right, to what was passed last year. And my understanding is there's gonna be a vote on House Bill 92 this coming Tuesday, which will then make some changes, and that's what we are telling you now. We're obligated to have these public hearings, but Tuesday, things may change, all right? And to give you an example of that, when we first got this, we had to have this done by March 1st, all right? By the end of this month, by March 1st. Last week, they came up and said, okay, not March 1st, we're going to May 1st. Yesterday, email came that says, don't worry about May 1st, they're going back to March 31st, all right? And so then the question came, you going back from May back to March? And then the second email came, says, no, we are talking about March 31st, 2029, all right? So all that's got to be cleared up. We need to wait. We need to have these hearings because we are obligated by the law to do it, all right, because of what's sitting in place now, all right? The House Bill 581 that was passed last, they're making adjustments as we speak and during the night. So Tuesday, we'll find out what happens with House Bill 92, and then how that will affect House Bill 581. So it's a, he said it before, it's a moving basketball, and it's moving all over the place, and we're constantly getting emails and things. I just got one before I came out here, and all of you should have gotten an email from me. Today you got it? Okay. That I sent out as soon as I got it today. I fanned it out to all of the commissioners, and once we get the settling of these things, then we will give you the information we have. Right now, this is what we have in front of us. This is the presentation, and we are fulfilling what the law tells us we need to fulfill, okay? So we may have, tomorrow when we talk, it might be a little different, all right? When we get to the final analysis of this, and I don't know when that will be, but there might be some more going on because the committee that is in committee now, but I understand on Tuesday it's going before the whole House to bring in HB 92, all right? So we got to see what effects HB 92 is going to have on 581. Then Corey knows we'll be able to bring you even some more. And we aren't going to do anything because we were asked last Wednesday by our legislators up there to pause what we're doing. In fact, I even started to cancel lists, all right? But because we'd already advertised it, we went on with today and tomorrow, all right? So there is some adjustments coming. And as we make those adjustments, and again, I want to point to what the Board of Assessors is telling us, it'll be automatic, all right? Because now they're even asking the city of Savannah, and they're talking to the school board. I got through talking to school board members. In fact, that's why I was late coming out here, because I was talking to a school board member. They're trying to decide what the school board should do about this whole thing too. And my caution to everyone is, let us wait and get all the facts in, and let us present you the facts as the final thing will be, okay? And if we have to make adjustments, and especially if they move in the date back to 2029, we don't need to be in a hurry to do nothing. We need to wait until they do some more tweaking, because I understand that a whole lot of tweaking is going on and some things being etched out and some things being etched in. And Andre, did you want to say something? Did they say you, from the law standpoint at this point? What they say?
No, the only thing is that you have to advertise if you're gonna opt out, and we don't know if we're gonna opt out unless we put it up and have public hearings. And so
Right.
we may decide to do nothing, but we have to do something because the law currently says March 1st, you have to have all these things
Have to have
done.
these things done.
Yeah.
That's why we have it tonight. That's why we will have it again tomorrow, all right? And then if nothing changed on Tuesday, we would have the last one by the end of this month and go forward to what we're gonna plan on doing, all right?
Public information, if there's somebody from the state legislature who could come in and assist us with some of these answers, because you also mentioned about the school board. And, you know, every year, in my understanding, the school board keeps raising their, millage rate, and then they get the penny.
Gotta let him talk into that mic, because people listening can't hear.
Right. So I was asking, he mentioned the school board and what their posture is going to be. And as we already know, they keep raising their millage rate every chance they get. And so we don't know, would like to know how much more is that gonna cost me in taxes?
That's actually a school board decision. We just determine the value of a real property in the county.
Right.
We don't deal with taxation at all.
And what I would advise all taxpayers to do, all right? Since you know that the school board sets its millage rate, since you know that each municipality sets its millage rate, you have to go to those entities, because we can only control what's in our pocket, all right? And how we do for the county, all right? But now, remember this now, this is M&O and it's county-wide. So when the commissioners make the decision, it's gonna be county-wide, all right? And so now we still, and my question is still, since this is M&O, how is this gonna affect the SSD? And I haven't gotten an answer to that yet, all right? Because I'm looking out for, we gotta look out for everybody. Oh, yeah. See, so we need to know, we talking M&O, but we need to know how it's gonna affect SSD, okay? Maybe somewhere in your presentation, I don't know, because we kind of slowed you down right here. But in essence, we do M&O and we do SSD. So we need to know before we pass anything that how it's gonna affect in both, all right?
So, Mr. Chairman, I don't have an answer for that, but what I will say is our
No.
current anticipation is that all districts will opt in. We have to make certain software preparations. So the conversations with our software vendors have already started. That way, should anybody opt out, unchecking the box is much easier than a brand-new software innovation. So our conversations are under the assumption everybody will, so that we're prepared so that we can give you all a tax digest.
Right, right. And I understand that's where we're going, okay?
Yes, sir.
All right, any other question from commissioners? Yes.
I think he asked to hear from legislators, but they are in session right now.
Right, that's what I'm saying. Listen, the only way you're gonna hear from legislators is you call them or you go up there, because they in session right now, all right? Last year, you know, they used to take off every Friday, but I don't think this year they're taking off Friday, because that's how these things are moving and rolling out. So, again, we can talk to you from the county standpoint, all right? But it's gonna take the city of Savannah, Port Wentworth, Pooler, Bloomingdale, and we all talking now. And in fact, I said to one of the mayors, and I'm not gonna say who it is, but I'm saying one of the mayors, got some information, and I told them, what you were told was nothing that we have heard, so I wouldn't take it from that. I'd wait to let the legislators tell us, and then let the Board of Assessors tell us, because they're the ones who are gonna have to do the calculation, all right? And so I'm hoping that they'll do that, and they said they were gonna tune in tonight to us. And so my advice to them, as your chairman for everybody, is to wait and see, because that's what our legislators asked us to do, is to wait on this. And some people who already said they might opt out might have to change their mind and turn around. And the good part about it is the legislators gonna allow them to do that. Yes, sir.
And I would say that the government bodies locally that has the built-in CPI, they're in a much more of a difficult position at this moment, because they have no clue to what it's going to do with their revenues, because they have that built-in increase. It makes our lives a lot easier, because whatever we decide for the M&O is basically gonna be the same for the SSD, and because the previous leaders here didn't build in that, increase.
Right.
Our job's much
Is
easier.
to make sure it's in there.
Exactly.
That's why I said my question is, we gonna do this M&O.
Yeah.
But we gonna make sure
Yeah.
that it affects SSD as well. All right, go ahead, go.
Absolutely.
There was just one more thought I
Sure.
wanted to share. Commissioner Kickletter, you mentioned the possibility of some sort of impact study. I just want to illustrate the challenges I think we would face in being able to do that. Is that, one, we don't know which inflationary factor they're going to pick yet. We also don't know how that will change year to year. It's also based on values that haven't even been dreamed of yet.
Right.
So to be able to do that, to be able to anticipate the ownership transfers, because if you move from the property, that exemption's gone. Somebody new moves in, it's a reestablished base year.
Right.
So there's not really a good one I can think. What I will say about it is the example I used illustrated a pretty aggressive revaluation year to be able to show a good in-your-face number.
Yeah.
What I will say is traditionally and historically, the savings that somebody would get year to year in their first year of a Stevens Day is not really going to be that much. The true power of Stevens Day comes from when you've lived at that property for a number of years and been through many revaluation cycles and many digests and many different economic shifts, as it were. So it's very difficult to look at that and anticipate, which is why really we haven't tried to say anything about it.
Right. It makes it pretty scary sitting in all seats, I think.
Yeah, but this will wait and see.
Yeah.
All right, go ahead.
That's actually it for me, folks.
Okay.
One last thing about it, just 581 again. 5 acres and up would qualify for 581. But I'm up for any more questions if anybody has anything.
Excellent job.
Any other questions? Any other questions?
Do y'all expect us here tomorrow? Because I know.
No, you don't really, and that's why we wanted to put this
Okay.
out tonight, all right? Because tomorrow, what we will do is because we are required to have the public hearing, and we've advertised it. So we will have a public hearing. Anybody, who's hearing us now, if we did not get to your question, please come tomorrow, and answer, so we can get the answers. And again, now, so that all commissioners will understand and all who are hearing us will understand, the Board of Assessors have to wait until the folks in Atlanta give you some bases that you're gonna work with and some numbers that you're gonna work with. And they can't do that until the legislators get through doing what they're doing, even setting up the cutoff date, all right? That's like a airless ball, it ain't bouncing. Yes, sir.
But if you're free, please feel free to come tomorrow to
Yeah, you
answer
can come.
questions, because you,
Yeah, you can come.
you are the,
Questions tomorrow.
Yeah.
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 have questions,
If you have time to come,
we don't
come
need you
on.
to do the presentation
Right,
tomorrow, but if
right.
if you
That's
can
what
answer questions.
That was my point. You
Yeah.
don't have to make the presentation, but if you're here tomorrow and there are questions, we'll call you up to
Will you
answer.
bring that up early in the meeting or later?
No, it's right after roll call. And
Okay.
when I approved the agenda today, it's right after roll call, then we'll do the public hearing. So that's, we start at 9:30. By 9:20, we should be into, the public hearing, and you can answer questions then.
We won't
No,
make y'all
we don't
sit
plan
through
on
that
keeping you.
No, we just want to know.
Yeah, no, we don't plan on keeping ourselves, because we've got a thing going on now where we trying to beat our time, all right? So we plan to get in here and get out because of our business load, all right? But I still want the public to know that the legislators are still making adjustments to 581, and they created a new bill, 92, all right, that makes changes to 581. They're still changing some of the language that's in 581. So all those things, we're waiting on Tuesday to see how the full House votes on it. That will give us more information, but then we still will have some adjustments that are being made. And like you said, I think it's to our advantage, Mr. Manager and Board. We go ahead and get that software and put it in, and then all we gotta do, and if the software is in place, all we gotta do is plug in.
Yes, sir.
All right? I think that's our best bet, because if we wait around till they make up their mind, and they make up their mind like they do some of the things, y'all know, they got crossover day, and then after crossover day, they get to the last day, and they be there all year in one day, all right, and be changing a whole lot of stuff, all right? But if we already have the software in place, I think, don't you all agree? If the software is in place, then all we gotta do is kick in the numbers, all right? So deal with the manager and getting the software in, so we'll be ready. And that's my point.
We're already on top of it, sir.
It's better for us to have it and not need it than to need it and don't have it, all right?
Yes,
That's my statement. Anything else from any other commissioner? Thank you all. Thank all those who came, and thank the general public for tuning in, and stay tuned for tomorrow. Good night.
Thank y'all.